Hello, my name is Marine Rabeyrin. I am the EMEA Education Segment Director for Lenovo. And it's my great pleasure to be here at BETT and hosting this podcast where I would like to talk to you about something very special, something which is very close to our heart and our belief is our commitment to sustainability. How do we serve education in all types of situations? So it's my great pleasure to be here with Rich from an NGO that we are working very closely with, Jangala. So before going further into more explanation, I would like Rich to introduce himself. Hello, Rich.
Thanks, Marine. So yeah, I'm Richard Thanki. I'm one of the founders and MD of Jangala.
So, Rich, can you tell to the audience what Jangala do?
Yeah. So Jangala is a charitable tech startup based in London. We design and develop internet access technology that's designed to connect those really hard to connect places, get Wi-Fi and internet access to those regions that have kind of been not covered by mobile networks, where big networks need to be built for schools or post-disaster situations. So yeah, that's what we do. We are still at our kind of pilot phase of our technology. So we've been working in 130 locations around the world, and we are going to launch our main product, Big Box version 1, later this year.
So maybe just to explain, the key products or the key solution that you are providing, and maybe invite our audience to visit the website. Yeah. So it's the Get Box, Big Box. So maybe you.
Yeah, for sure. So I think this links in with like how we got going, and I can kind of talk about that. So if you visit our website, which is www.janga.la, so Jangala, you can see a little bit about the things we make and the work we do. So the big purple box that you see is our product Big Box. And this was really something we developed even as a team of volunteers when we first started doing our work.
And we'll come back to the start of Jangala.
And GetBox is something that we developed during the pandemic, really working very closely with Lenovo to make this happen. It was a way of getting internet access that was efficient and low cost to kids who didn't have internet access at home and could learn, to adults receiving mental health treatment with the NHS, connecting people who were at refuges for abused women escaping abusive relationships. So yeah, we've been working a lot internationally, but also with GetBox. In the pandemic, we started working a lot right at home here in London on our doorstep.
So I would like you to explain, how you started this journey, because it's still a pretty young, somehow, organization. So can you tell a little bit what has been your starting point and your journey in this organization?
Yeah, for sure. So Jangala's kind of journey started in 2015. I was put in touch with my fellow co-founder, Nils O'Hara, by a mutual friend of ours, who told me that Nils and his organization that he ran with his sister was having trouble getting internet access in the Calais jungle refugee camp. So they had set up an organization that was doing amazing work in Calais, but they couldn't get a mobile signal. They couldn't get internet access. And it's not just them, but the 10,000 people living in the camp, as well as the tens of organizations trying to provide support for these people. At the time, I was working with experimental kind of wireless technology in sub-Saharan Africa with Microsoft, and also doing a PhD at the same time. And Ben was like, "Do you think you could help Nils?" And I was like, "Yes, absolutely." And so I sat up all night, put together a PDF of like what we could do, got in touch with Nils. We both developed it together, really excited by the idea. And within a couple of weeks of us having this conversation, we were there in the mud and the rain of Calais in November, where it's very, very cold and windy, working to build a Wi-Fi network that would cover the entire camp. And so, yeah, we worked on our weekends as volunteers. We crowdfunded donations to help build this network. And then in mid-December, we turned the network on. And yeah, the results were amazing. Like, we could see that hundreds of people were connecting. And as word of the Wi-Fi spread, people just kind of got online. And, by the end of the first day, 5,000 people had gotten online, and that just carried on.
So that's amazing. That's amazing, especially considering that those people were probably isolated isolated. So how does it felt at the time? You know, when you see so many people connecting, so many people that were providing access when they didn't have it. So how does it feel for you?
It's an incredible feeling, actually. You feel like the hard work was no effort at all, right? And that's the main thing about it. So you know, and so we were able to see firsthand what happens when people kind of connect. And you're completely right, like the mental health effects and the isolation of being kind of stranded, and you know, a lot of people far from home,
From home, from family.
yeah, exactly. Is that you would see a kind of pattern repeat itself. So initially you'd see people's kind of phones turn on and notifications ping, 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 and people would send messages. And then once all that was done, you see that people use the internet to connect with each other. So you would see someone showing someone else a video of this great young footballer from their hometown who's going to, you know, be the best player in the Syrian national team at some point. And people just connect with their former lives, their interests, their hobbies. And then some of the things that you saw is that the network was very busy, but in the mornings when fewer people were using it, often people would make video calls using it. And I would see people just in the bright early morning, like, you know, seeing their cousin's baby for the first time, you know, and things like that. And you see moments like that, and it's just like the biggest reward.
Yeah, I can imagine. And well done for this. But then that was just a starting point. So I would like to ask you a few things. First of all, how have you been developing and how you have been pursuing this, you know, this journey and this adventure? And even before asking you this, where does the Jangala name come from?
That's a really good question. So we had built all the network and we'd put it all together. And then the question was asked, like, what do we actually call the Wi-Fi network? And I was like, good question, I don't know. We didn't want to call it anything as kind of boring as free Wi-Fi. But there was an amazing French lady who was working with us. She was from Calais. She'd been helping the refugees from day one. You know, she'd faced opposition in her own community for people saying, well, you shouldn't, you know, there were some people opposed, but, you know, she burnt like a fire, and she's an amazing person. And she was the one who told me a story, which was that the jungle wasn't called the jungle because of outsiders. It was called that by the first Afghans who went and camped on this site outside Calais, which was an old asbestos dump, so it wasn't like, you know, pristine land. And the word Jangal in Pashto means like, you know, a barren place, like a rough place. And then I thought that's really interesting because that sounds a lot like the English word jungle, which comes from Hindi originally. And so I just, in the back of a car, was looking up the etymology of the word jungle and found that it comes from Sanskrit. And it might come from Proto-Indo-European even before that. And so Jangala either means a barren and wild place or a person who's from a barren and wild place. And it seemed like you know, that this idea of wilderness and this idea of kind of people in that, you know, we're all in that in our own way. And so yeah, it seemed like a great name. One that wasn't used very much, and we adopted it just for the Wi-Fi network originally. We hadn't even thought about setting up an organization, and then from that it naturally became that.
So then if you can explain what you have been doing since then, how you have been developing, how we have been structuring the NGO as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, all this work we did in Calais, we were just doing as volunteers. You know, I was still doing two other things, so was Nils, so was our other co-founder Samson. But we started getting messages, like within days after we switched on the network, of people from other places saying, hey, we've heard what you've done in Calais. Like, can you come and help us in South France? Can you come to Greece? Can you come to Belgium or to Lebanon? And we were like, okay, well, it seems like there's more of a need than this. And so we did as much as we could. We would fly out on weekends on EasyJet flights to go to these places and connect these locations. But we did this for about 6 months, and then just the thought struck that there's got to be a better way of doing this. Like, can we develop something that allows people to connect themselves, which means that, you know, it wouldn't be the bottleneck of, you know, these three hairy guys from England going and connecting them. And so that's when we started working on Big Box. And we were, again, at this point, still just like doing this in our spare time. We put together our first big box. So, Samson, the other co-founder of the three, he's got a background in kind of sculpture and design. And so we built this bright purple box. And yeah, we took it to Greece and had it kind of working. And, and then I was having then just a few weeks after that, I was having a conversation with Kip Meek, who is the chair of Jangala and has been an amazingly important figure in our story. And Kip is my old boss and used to be the Deputy Director General of Ofcom in the UK. And I was having a drink with him and he said, "Rich, what have you been up to?" And I said, "It's funny you should ask that, Kip. This is what we've been up to." And at that point he said, "Look, this is great. Are you thinking about making something bigger out of this?" And I said, "Well, we are thinking about it. We'd hoped that you would help us." And he did. And so from that point, we set Jangala up as a registered charity. We got a small grant from a couple of small UK charities, which allowed the three of us to spend 9 months working on another prototype of Big Box. We got a few of these deployed. And then towards the end of that year, we sent a very kind of speculative message in a little box at the bottom of the newly refounded Lenovo Foundation's website. And the rest is history.
Yeah, so then, exactly, maybe you may wonder, why we invited Jangala to BETT. So indeed, we have a common journey together. As Jangala was starting, you came to the Lenovo Foundation and, seek for support. And from the very beginning, Lenovo Foundation has been involved to support you in this journey. And I would say that that was a natural fit because at Lenovo, we have this thing to say that we want to bring smarter technology for all. So for all, it means everyone. So your approach, your initiative was really resonating to what we believe in and the way we want to bring technology to everyone. And then, this collaboration has become even more relevant or even more natural as Lenovo has a commitment to education. So maybe that's something also you can talk about, what you do in education. So then, we see that we can also bring technology to elevate or to maintain education, even in specific contexts like war or, this type of difficult context where education is at risk. So for us, it became even more natural, the matching between what we do together. So maybe can you say a word about how we have been collaborating and the type of partnership that we have together?
Yeah, for sure. It's so we kind of sent this message, not really even kind of expecting a response. We weren't pros at this at all, and we ended up having an amazing conversation with the kind of really dedicated and amazing people who lead the Lenovo Foundation. And we had a number of schools that we wanted to connect, but we needed some support to actually kind of build the systems and get them out there. And Lenovo, we spent a long time talking to the foundation. They asked about what our future plans were, and at that point they weren't very kind of well structured, but I think that they could see that there was a lot of potential in our work. We built these 5 big boxes. They went to schools largely in sub-Saharan Africa. The very first one that sent out, it was changed hands 5 different times between people to get to where it needed to go to in Kenya. I think it originally spent one evening with a wedding guest somewhere that then got sent to a Jesuit missionary, I think had it at one point. But yeah, it got to where it needed to get to. But yeah, we worked together to connect 5 schools and educational settings. And one thing that's really interesting about that is that a couple of them were kind of more traditional schools, but 3 of the first 5 projects we did with Lenovo were for education centers in refugee camps, which were being run by kind of small teams that were international, trying to put together a syllabus. And you kind of see that actually education is all pervasive. Our work initially just really focused on can we get Wi-Fi to refugees and the organizations supporting them. But we found so quickly that for the refugees and for the organizations, education is one of the most critical focuses. The amount of time that someone spends being a refugee is growing and growing and growing over time. And in the case of refugees from Palestine, it's 3 generations now for so many of them. That these could be lost years if there isn't the focus to make these years that can be productive, even if they're difficult. And I think that, one of the things that we have found along with education is that now that there's so much content that's kind of either focused on education or has educational uses, say from, so much of the content on YouTube to even content on TikTok that is trying to kind of teach and enlighten people, that there's so much content that not having internet access represents such a high dam, and the dam gets higher and higher and higher. But when that dam breaks and when schools get connected, so one of our projects together has been in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. And so the Eastern DRC is, an area that's like incredibly isolated from the kind of cities on the coasts of both East and West Africa. And we've been working with an amazing partner there, Fidili, who contacted us out of the blue. He helped connect his own school. That school had 55 megabit per second internet through Big Box, through combining the two modems that are inside Big Box. And it was the fastest internet they've ever had. They were able to teachers and the students were able to make such use of so many resources they didn't have before. And what Fidili has done is he has become, we didn't ask him to, but he's become this amazing ambassador for Jangala. He's gone to all of the schools in the local area saying, you need this. And we've had these big opening days where, for some of these schools, Lenovo have provided laptops as well, that these schools, without, any kind of prompting, have made huge days of when the internet and the school labs get turned on. It's a big day for people because, it just represents so much possibility. And and education, again, I think one of the most interesting things I heard was I was in India visiting another of our projects with Alig in eastern India, in the state of Jharkhand, which is beautiful. It's got hills and tiger reserves and diamonds and minerals in the ground. It's cool. But I was speaking to a headmaster at a school there, and he was very kind of stern and strict. But he made an amazing point. He said that with the internet, our jobs as teachers are almost to get out of the way, because there are children and there's the information they want access to. There are no barriers anymore. And he was such a proponent of, that curiosity instinct that we have, that access to the internet can help unlock. And so, of the projects that we've done together with Lenovo, it's about 70 or 80 projects now. The majority of them have been education focused in all kinds of ways.
Yeah, and we join forces, as you just say. How maybe you can also give some testimonials about how does it work for you as an NGO to work with company like Lenovo, big companies. So the added value, maybe the challenge, you may say as well. What is your experience?
Well, it's a really, really great question. I think that big companies are different. And one of the things that really struck us about Lenovo is that, we were teeny tiny infants when we met Lenovo. There were maybe 4 of us at that point. We've now kind of grown to a team of just over 20 in a few years, mainly in the last year. So it's been a big change from then. But I think the foundation were excellent. They understood that, that we had limited time. They were very, very respectful and caring of the time that we needed. They introduced us to the right people. They kept the interaction really kind of relevant and focused. It was kind of a real, it's been a real kind of, it's been a real privilege actually. And as you said, this relationship has deepened. So it got to the point that when we were ready, we were introduced to the foundation's kind of regional teams, like the teams that you have in Asia and Latin America. And, again, our engagement has grown with the size of the, as we've kind of grown as well. So it's been fantastic. And I think that in terms of how it's benefited us beyond just, the amazing financial support that Lenovo has given us is in a kind of number of ways. Like Lenovo is such an established name in education. I think the two things are synonymous, right? So that, when we go and speak to, the Ministry of Education in Zambia, for us to say, we work with Lenovo is a huge benefit for us, because, it means that someone's some due diligence on us, And also, I think the internet is in some ways just the internet. You know, it's the kind of Lenovo laptops, it's the kind of teachers' creativity and together that unlock actual meaningful educational experiences.
So maybe I would like to propose that you can also express what is it that you need. I think here we have the occasion to value what you are doing, the incredible job that you are doing on the field. So maybe if you have any call to action, any requests that you would like to ask, please. That's a privilege to give you this opportunity and maybe tell people how they can support you.
Yep. How long have we got? But no, thank you, Marine. So we're at a really interesting point in our journey. So we have developed completely open source software and hardware. We want to do this in kind of very much the right way. We are still a relatively small team. We have kind of big ambitions, and we want to work with we want to make a real dent in the digital divide when it comes to education around the world. So it's a really exciting stage for us. We're about to develop Big Box version 1, and Big Box version 1 will be launching this year, and it will be putting together everything we've learned in the last 5 years. So Big Box version 1 will be able to connect to everything from 2G to 5G to fiber optic networks in the future. It should be a single system that can grow with the needs of a school, from connecting the teachers with some 3G now to having fiber optic connection plugged into it in 10 years' time and providing high-speed access for all of the kids. And it's really exciting for us because it's going to be the first big box that will be able to run directly from solar power. So a car battery attached to it and a solar panel connected to it should allow for 24-hour operation. So that's going to be really exciting for us. So there's a lot we're doing at the moment, and there's a lot of ways that people can help. We are looking for people to help us code and develop and design. So we have needs ranging from like open source software and Linux experience through to electronic engineering and kind of product design. We're still going to deploy another 100 prototype big boxes this year. So if anyone in the audience knows of a place that needs connectivity but doesn't have it, then please get in touch with us on www.janga.la, Jangala. Every project we deploy, we learn something new, and we come across difficulties we'd never have imagined. And so this year we want to make sure that by the time we launch, we have got everything right, and that we can, if we're having this conversation again in 5 years, Marine, I really hope that we can say that because of, a few lucky coincidences at the beginning, a lot of hard work from a lot of people, and a lot of help from organizations and individuals who've, people have gone above and beyond to help us. And I think that just inspires us to work even more. So get in touch with us. Even if you want to have a conversation or ask more questions about what we're doing, we're always happy to respond. And I just want to say thanks again to Lenovo for all the help that you've given us over the years.
Thank you for to do the job that you are doing, which is super important. So well done. We will be by your side as much as possible, and we hope that this podcast gives an opportunity to get even more support and give you the strength you need to accomplish the mission that you have been starting. So thank you very much for taking the time here to come at BETT, and see you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.